What's poppin', you guys? Hi, Sabrina, first person in the chat room. Hey, Booze. I'm ready too. Hey, Doreen, Deshauna, hey, Cam, Miss Reyes, Brianna, Precious, Jamia, TD, Tay, Tony. It's a bunch of y'all. Y'all ready, ain't you? Y'all are ready. Happy New Year to you too. Michelle. Hey, Deandra. Hey, Ladybug. Let some more people log in before we get this started. I don't know why I'm nervous. Maybe because I ain't been live in forever, but I'm nervous. I think because I had no plans on doing this morning when I woke up, but events happened today that led to this video. So I guess that's why I'm jittery. It's my birthday. Happy birthday, Sierra. You nervous too, Jasmine? Yeah, I didn't want to miss a live. I'm happy you did miss it, Precious. Hey, Asia. Hey, Furious. Okay, we're going to let a few more people log in. Thank you, Ladybug. Be careful while driving, Ayana. I'm happy you didn't miss it either, Pache. Oh, thank you, sweet. Don't be nervous, Deandra. So I guess that everybody ain't got no plans tonight. I'm staying my ass in the house. Hey, it's all love. You're more than welcome, Deandra. All right, so let's get this thing started. Okay, before I even read chapter 1, I want to reiterate that this was an impromptu decision to do this today. I had no intentions on doing this at all. Remember, I told you guys that for Cam and Grace's final book, I wanted everything to be a surprise. I was not going to give you guys the title of the book. You already know I don't release the covers until the day it's released, but there will be no synopsis for the final book. And I had no intentions of doing any live readings for their final book. But today I woke up and I checked somebody had inboxed me on Instagram, and I checked the message and I saw I had 2 request messages on Instagram. And so I went to the messages, and one of the messages just blew me away. And it really stirred me up. It made me emotional, and it was just like, wow. So I'm going to read you guys the message. So the person sent me this message last night at 10:14, but I missed it. So it says, hello, my name is Cheryl, and my daughter is an avid reader. She was reading your book, Dream. She wanted to see if there was a sequel. So she followed you only to see Cliff. Cliff is the character inspiration for Cam, Cliff Dixon. May he rest in peace. She said she wanted to see if there was a sequel, so she followed you only to see Cliff, my son. Did you know him? I hope you don't mind, but I reached out to people who knew him in a way that helps me keep him alive, and I never want him to be forgotten. And when I got that message, y'all, my heart just stopped, and my heart was just beating, and I was just like, oh my God. I never met Cliff, never spoke to Cliff, none of that. I just simply followed him on Instagram. And when I decided to write Cam and Grace's story, he was the first person that came in mind to be the character visual inspiration. And he just fit Cam perfectly to a T. Like, he was everything that I ever imagined him to be. And I never reached out to him when he was alive to let him know that he was a character inspiration. You know, some celebrities be kind of, iffy about that or whatever. And so when he passed, of course, it affected all of us because of the way it happened. And he was so young and he had so much potential and so many things going for him. And it was just a tragic ending to such a young, just special life. So when I got this message today, I was just like, whoa, because when he died, it really affected me. Like, it really did affect me. Like, people around me know that it really did affect me. I don't know why. I just had a spiritual connection with that man for some odd reason. I don't know what, but it just blew me away that his mom not only reached out to me today, but that his sister, Red Dream. Like, it's just a small world. You never know who's watching you. You never know who reads your work or supports your work. So it just blew me away. So I responded back and I said, "Hi, Miss Cheryl. First, allow me to express that I'm so sorry for your loss. Unfortunately, I never got the opportunity to meet or speak with Cliff. However, he was a visual inspiration for my character Cam, but he wasn't based upon Cliff or his life. My readers loved him as the visual representation of the character after Cliff's passing. Out of respect, I stopped posting pictures of him, but as of recently, I started posting pictures sporadically to show my love and appreciation for him and to keep his memory alive. Since your daughter is a reader, I would love to send her the series for her to read. I will keep you all in my prayers. God bless and be encouraged." And she responded and she said, "Thank you so much for responding. My daughter will appreciate that. She started following you for your books, then noticed Cliff. Although seeing his pictures and hearing his songs makes me smile at times and sad other times. I would rather see him than not to. I have reminders all over and forever in my heart and mind. People loved him so much. He had an enormous heart. I never want him forgotten. So feel free to post. My heart is forever broken and that empty spot will never be filled. But I have my memories and I will keep them with Cliff in the present. Thank you for remembering my son. I just wait and pray for the day his killers are brought to justice." And we talked a little bit more, and I'm going to send her and her daughter copies of the books. But it's just that her reaching out to me just reminded me that, once again, life is short and tomorrow's not promised for anybody. And, I just made up the decision then after that to go on live today and read you all the first chapter, because without you, his character has like taken on a life of its own. When y'all see Cliff, y'all see Cam, and I never expected for it to go that deep, but y'all have really connected with Cam, the character, and Cliff, the man, so I was like, I just wanted to show my appreciation to you guys as well, and just end the year with Cam and Gray. We started the year with Cam and Gray, and to give y'all a little taste of what I have in store for you guys in 2020. My heart is just full. I'm a little shaky, like I said, because it just really hit me in the heart, because I told her, I have a son, I have a 20-year-old son. So Lord forbid anything ever happened to Kyrese, like I'll still be on the floor somewhere. So I can only imagine what she's going through. But as long as I got breath in my lungs, and with her blessing now, I will continue to big up Cliff and, acknowledge him and let people know who he was, because he was a talented guy. He just wasn't handsome. He was a basketball star. He was a rapper. He just had so much stuff going for him. So I'm just so thankful that I have her blessing to continue to use his, him visually for the character, and to continue to, uplift his legacy and what he had on. So yeah, that's how this whole thing came about, you guys. So if y'all are ready, I'm going to read you guys the first chapter of Cam and Gray's last book. I'm really going to go into character when I'm reading the dialogue. So get ready. Y'all might see me make myself cry. But I really want y'all to feel the emotions of chapter 1 and everything. All the emotions and feelings that I put into it. This video will be staying up, so you don't have to worry about me taking it down. This video will be here for you to come back and listen to it later after the reading is done. But this will be the only reading from the book I won't be reading anything else from the book. So let's get into it. All righty, let me pull up the menu. Scriptiones. Okie dokie. I'm gonna have to cover my face. Well, I'm covering my face. Y'all can't see, but all right. Let me take a little sippy sip. Y'all ready? All right. All right. Chapter one's lyrics is from Marvin Gaye's Just to Keep You Satisfied. And it's the lyrics, it's too late for you and me. It's too late for you and I. Much too late for you to cry. Oh, we tried. God knows we tried. So those are the lyrics to chapter one. Let's get it cracking. All right. Where is Cam? Last time I saw him, he was in the conference room. Gray didn't even have time to say thank you. Quickly, she raced back inside. But as she stepped across the threshold, she bumped right into the man she hoped to avoid. Victor stood there in all his frightening glory with a gold-plated pistol in hand. A silencer was attached to the barrel. The last thing Gray expected was for him to get his hands dirty and kill her himself. Adrenaline flooded her system as they linked eyes. Her body wanted to flee, but there was no place for her to go. It was midnight. Time had officially run out. She was so scared she wanted to vomit. Saliva thickened in her mouth as beads of sweat trickled down her spine. Victor raised the gun and aimed it at her forehead. Grace slowly closed her eyes and prayed that her kids wouldn't walk into the winery as her body fell lifeless to the ground. Can you please tell Cam and my kids I love them? She wept. Victor didn't say a word as he took his gun off safety. Just as he was about to pull the trigger and blow Gray's brains out, the sound of a door opening from across the way caught their attention. Gray! Cam called out her name wearily. Simultaneously, she and Victor looked his way. Cam could barely stand. He stumbled out of the conference room with blood seeping from his mouth and stomach. With great effort, he tried to make his way to her, but all of his strength was gone. The pain in his abdomen burned like fire. A cloud of black swarmed his vision. The only thing he could concentrate on was the sound of his decreasing heartbeat. His breath had shallowed to virtually nothing. Cam! Gray pushed Victor out of the way to get to him. Before she could, Cam's body hit the ground with a loud thud. Gently, she took him into her arms. Baby, what happened? She asked, wiping the blood from his mouth. It was his eyes fluttered closed. It was who, baby? Who? Who did this to you? She held him near as Victor concealed his weapon and called 911. Cam wanted to tell her it was Lala who set him up, but the sound of Gray's cries grew fainter by the second. She wanted to save him, but it was of no use. It was too late for him, for them. If it came down to him or her, he'd gladly lay down his burdens and die. Besides, he'd be joining his mother and their baby girl soon. He could die happily now. Black filled the edges of his vision as Cam's eyes fluttered closed. His breath came out in short, ragged gasps as he faintly heard Gray call his name. Cam, she shook his face. You have to wake up. Cam, she cried out and trembled with grief. She wanted to save him, but it was too late. His time was up. Cam's tired human heart beat one last time before everything faded to black. Cam, no. You can't do this to me. Grace shook him hard. Somebody help me, she screamed as blood soaked into the skin of her hands. Gray's life might as well have been over. Cam's dying would be her undoing. Nah, not my brother. Quan held his hand. Who the fuck I got a body? Stacy bulldozed his way through the growing crowd with his Glock in hand. He was ready to air out the whole crowd. Priest was right behind him. While Stacy spazzed out, he followed the trail of blood to the conference room, pushed open the door, and found Pastor Idris sprawled onto the floor dead. Tons of paperwork from Cam's court case was scattered all around as well. The fuck happened? He gawked, bewildered. It was apparent that Pastor Idris and Cam had gotten into a physical altercation that resulted in Cam being stabbed and Pastor Idris being strangled. The tie around his neck clued him in on this. For the life of him, he couldn't figure out what had transpired that would make them go at each other. Pastor Idris had been Cam and Gray's marriage counselor, for God's sake. All Priest knew was that his cousin had to survive. Their family wouldn't be able to take the blow of another member dying. Grace's death had done unrepairable damage to the Parthens clan. Baby, Gray ran her shaky hand across Cam's face. You have to wake up, baby. She shook him again. Please, Cam, wake up, please. You can't do this to me. It's you and me forever. Remember, you said you never leave me. We're supposed to grow old together. Me and you, baby. Me and you. She sobbed uncontrollably. You said you would never leave me. You said everything would be all right. You promised, baby. Baby, you promised. She stroked his cheek lovingly. We were supposed to have more time. You can't leave me. I won't make it, Cam. I won't. I swear to God, I won't. Cam, wake up, please. Cam, wake up. Cam's beautiful butterscotch skin had turned a sickening shade of blue. Gray's stomach dropped to her toes. His chest was no longer heaving up and down. He stopped breathing. Cam had stopped breathing, and Gray's whole world had stopped spinning on its axis. Cam, her husband, her best friend, the father of her kids, her sparring partner, the man that made her heart flutter with just one glance, the man that made her believe in men and love again, was dead. In disbelief, Gray inhaled one loud gasp and held it. Her bottom lip trembled as a stream of tears scorched her foundation-covered cheeks. Her entire body turned to stone. She couldn't move a muscle. Gray held her breath so long she almost passed out. Reality had set in. She and Cam's whirlwind love affair had come to an abrupt end. Just that quickly, they were mortal enemies, then in love, separated, reunited, and now torn apart once more, but this time by death. There would be no coming back or do-overs. It was over. Finito. Finished. Cam! She shrilled at the top of her lungs. The scream ripped through her like a shard of glass. Eyes wide with dismay, her mouth was rigid and open as she gazed upon his chalky and gaunt and immobile face. Gray's pulse quickened as she screamed again. This shriek was just like the last, desperate, terrified, human. This couldn't be her reality, their reality. Gray could feel herself sinking into darkness. If Cam was dead, she had no choice but to go with them. There was no living without him. She needed him. Their kids needed him. The triplets had just gotten to know him. If it wasn't for her selfishness, they would have gotten to spend the first 2.5 years of their lives with him. Gray would never be able to forgive herself for keeping them apart. She was sure the kids wouldn't either. Where was Victor so he could offer his promise? She wanted to die, no needed to die. Living without Cam wasn't an option. Death would not divide them. As Gray looked around the packed winery for him, the sight of several ambulance workers caught her attention. She could barely make them out. Her vision was so blurred and bloodshot from crying. Help was finally there, but it was too late. Cam was already gone. Gray glanced back down at him. Life had drained from his eyes. He was as pale and limp as a rag doll. Gray traced his eyebrow with her bloody index when a pair of strong hands pulled her up from the floor. No, 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 let me go. She tried to fight the person off of her. She needed to be next to her husband. He needed her. She needed him. He was all she had left. Gray, chill. No, he needs me. She kicked and screamed. How did this happen? One of the EMTs questioned. I don't know. Gray wept. He was stabbed. Priest spoke up. The motherfucker that did it, and the knife is in there. He pointed towards the conference room. He's not breathing. The EMT worker proceeded to give Cam CPR. Who did it? Stacy whipped around. He needed answers, and he needed answers now. Man, you ain't gonna believe this. Priest ran his hands down his face, exasperated. Pastor Idris. What? Gray clawed at Quan's hand so he would let her go. No, that can't be true. Gray, you gotta chill. Quan held her even tighter. He too was in shock and a wreck, but he had to keep it together for Gray and everyone else's sake. If he broke down, things would get even more out of control. Why would Pastor Idris do that? Why? None of this makes sense. Why would he kill Cam? He said he was here to help us. Gray wailed, doubling over. Stop saying that shit. He ain't dead. Quan didn't want to believe that Cam had passed on to the other side, but he stopped breathing and not one limb on his body was moving. Gray was racked with grief. He knew that kind of pain. He felt it when Diggy was murdered. Gray cried with more violence than any storm. She didn't break softly. It was as if every atom of her being screamed in unison, traumatized with the notion she'd have to keep living without Cam by her side. She wailed in such a way that no one could bear the mental strain. She had gone from being in shock to completely losing her mind. Not even Quan could get her to a state of calm. We got a pulse and we got him back breathing, the EMT announced. Time stood still. Stacy, Priest, and Quan all let out a sigh of relief. Gray clutched her chest as she dropped to her knees and thanked God. See, that nigga strong. He gonna make it. Quan gripped her shoulder as Cam's body was channeled onto a stretcher and wheeled outdoors to the waiting ambulance. Gray swiftly pulled away from Quan's comforting arms and ran behind them. She would be by Cam's side every step of the way. Wait a minute. A female EMT placed her hand on Gray's chest, stopping her. Gray Gray furrowed her brows in sense. Only a family member can ride in the ambulance with the victim. Are you family? I'm his wife. Grace smacked her hand away. Don't ever put your hands on me. You lost your fucking mind, bitch. She ice grilled her and hopped inside. Seated beside him, she took Cam's cold hand into hers. The ambulance had a deathly smell that reminded her of sulfur and other chemicals that made her want to vomit. It numbed her nose and choked her, but Gray kept it together. None of that mattered. All that mattered was ensuring Cam lived to see another day. It didn't seem like he'd make it with the way the EMT was driving. The ride to the hospital was far more alarming than seeing gushes of blood pour from Cam's abdomen. Every bump and rattle of the bed and IV drip caused Gray's anxiety to skyrocket. It was bad enough she had to witness the love of her life strapped to a stretcher as EMTs worked frantically to stop his bleeding. The bleeding wouldn't stop coming. It kept coming and coming and coming. His plasma filled one gauze after another. Stitch him up, goddammit. Why are you just letting him bleed? Gray snapped, holding onto his hand for dear life. We can't, ma'am. Your husband needs surgery. He's experiencing internal bleeding. His aorta was nicked by the knife. Is that bad? The EMT looked at Gray with sorrow-filled eyes. Her throat constricted. Yes, ma'am, it is. Even when her mother died, Gray had never experienced grief this severe before. It grabbed a hold of her and wouldn't let go. Every memory she and Cam had ever created played like a song in her head, repeating itself. With each second that passed, it felt like she was losing the biggest part of her. At first, she thought grief was something that took a person 10 feet under, but Gray quickly learned that it was just the price a person paid for loving someone. Hope filled her chest as they pulled up to the emergency room doors. Like a well-oiled machine, the EMTs wheeled Cam's unresponsive body out of the ambulance and rushed him inside DePaul Hospital. Emergency room physicians were there awaiting his arrival. Gray didn't even get a chance to say goodbye before they wheeled him into a restricted area for surgery. This time, she didn't mind being pulled apart from Cam. The faster he was in surgery, the quicker he would be on the road to recovery. That didn't stop Gray from being overwrought with grief. In the middle of the emergency room, she stood alone in her ripped and blood-covered dress, shaking like a leaf. She was sure she looked insane standing there like a statue, but she couldn't will her legs to move. Her body had turned into dry cement. Gray's mind was telling her to go have a seat, but the nearest chair seemed like a million light years away. In the crowded room, she was alone. Gray had never felt more deserted in her life. Was this what it would feel like if she became a widower? The mere thought brought on an onslaught of tears to pour from her eyes. In the past, she would have been self-conscious about crying in public, but Gray couldn't help but give into her heartache. She balled into her blood-sodden hands. The tears dripped between her fingers, raining down onto the linoleum floor. Gray cried so hard she started to hyperventilate. All the strength left her legs as her breathing became ragged. Unknowingly, she sank to her knees, not caring about how others viewed her. Her wails of despair were so loud that one of the nurses rushed from behind the emergency room check-in to comfort her. Gray was so distraught she didn't even realize she'd been moved to a nearby seat. She cried until no more tears came, but still the emptiness and sorrow remained. Tapping the heel of her stiletto against the floor, she examined her surroundings. The emergency room passageway was congested and the air had an undercurrent of bleach. Gray frowned. The walls were a depressing, ugly shade of piss yellow that had been scratched in places from the thousands of stretchers that had bumped into them over the years. The artwork on the wall seemed to be somewhat expensive, but did nothing to uplift Gray's somber mood. Repeatedly, her heel tapped. The vibration of her thighs shaking against the seat of the chair soothed the jitters in the pit of her stomach. It seemed like an eternity passed before family and friends started to trickle in. Mo, Boss, Kima, Quan, Stacy, Heidi, Priest, Noon, Aoki, and Press all swarmed the emergency room. Baby, Noon rushed over to console her. His long arms wrapped around Gray's torso and squeezed her tight. Gray internally recoiled from his touch. She wanted to tell him to let her go, but her lips wouldn't part for her to speak the words. Are you all right? You're bleeding. He examined her dress. It's not her blood, Quan responded. It's Cam's. Thank God, Noon sighed in relief. Gray narrowed her stormy blue eyes on him. Her eyes were hard-rimmed and fixed, so much that it was as if she was no longer able to move her eyeballs. Her vicious glare caused Noon to visibly wilt before her. Without saying a word, her eyes spoke everything he feared. He noticed a change in her since he arrived to St. Louis. At first, he thought she was happy to be home and in her element with her friends, but soon he realized that it was far deeper than that. He was losing her. All the feelings she claimed were dead and gone for her soon-to-be ex-husband were back in full effect. He witnessed it firsthand when they were on the dance floor. Gray looked at Cam like he was the sun. His light shined down on her, blinding her to the love of anyone, including anyone else, including him. All she saw was Cam. Noon no longer existed. Now, as he stared into her cold eyes and her body went frigid from his touch, it was apparent that his time with her was dwindling down to nothing. Wounded, he pushed his hands into his pants pocket and stepped back. Noon faded into the background as the rest of the clan hugged and comforted Gray. Unlike with him, she seemed at ease. Everyone crowded around Gray asking questions that she didn't have the strength or energy to answer. Thank God Quan was there. He took over and explained what had transpired to everyone. Gray thought she was a mess. Mo impressed showed out worse than her. Seeing her baby girl in such agony was the only thing that brought Gray out of her trance. Her motherly instincts kicked in. Lovingly, she wrapped Press in her weary arms and rocked her back and forth. Aoki sat next to her with her head on her shoulder. The girls had no idea, but they were Gray's strength. Although she couldn't utter a word to speak, she was finding her resolve each second they were near. All she needed was her little babies, but they'd been taken to Titi's house. In need of some form of comfort, Grace started to hum. She wasn't the most spiritual person, but an old gospel hymn by Karen Clark Sheard titled The Will of God came to mind. It was a song that she played often when she fled to Paris. The safest place in the whole wide world is in the will of God. Though trials be great and the way seems hard, it's in the will of God. It may be on a mountain peak or in the valley low, but wherever it may be, if God says go, oh, go. Instantly recognizing the hymn, Aoki held her mother's hand and softly sang the lyrics to the second verse. The devil's loose in all the world. There's danger in the land. The safest place in the whole wide world is in the master's hand. It may be on the battlefront or in the prison walls, but wherever it may be, if God says go, you put your trust in him. Aoki couldn't sing a lick, but the song resonated deep in her soul. She'd seen her mother at her absolute worst when they were in Paris, but when she played that gospel hymn, hope was restored in Gray's broken spirit. She prayed to God that this time wasn't any different. Where is he? Devin raced through the doors in a panic. Her mere presence caused everyone in the waiting room to roll their eyes and sigh in annoyance. All of a sudden, all of the air in the room was sucked out. Her presence buzzed around everyone like a gnat no one could swat. Hello, she placed her hands on her hips. I know damn well y'all heard me talking. Where the fuck is my man? Cam is in surgery, Quan grimaced. That nigga ain't your fucking man. In surgery? What you mean he in surgery? What are they saying? Devin continued to yell and carry on. We don't know yet. And can you stop all that fucking yelling? Stacy barked. No, I cannot. Devin tossed her head from side to side while enunciating each word. It's all over the news that he got stabbed by a fucking deacon or some shit. And I know it had something to do with that fat bitch over there. She pointed her finger towards Gray. Oh no, bitch, you got my mama fucked up. Aoki leaped out of her chair ready to fight. Aoki, sit down. Gray spoke in a catatonic state. All she had the strength to do was comfort her whimpering child and hum. Nah, ma, I ain't gonna let this rat hoe talk to you any kind of way. On God, I'll fuck her ass up. Girl, go sit your bony ass down and stay in a child's place. Devin waved her off. Bitch, don't talk to my motherfucking niece like that. Mo charged her only to be stopped by her husband, boss. Yeah, you better get her. Devin arched her brow. Nah, bitch, you get me. It ain't nothing but space and opportunity over here. Run up and get done up. Yeah, whatever. Ain't you got like 90 million kids you need to be worried about? Yo, boss interjected. Real shit, now ain't the time. Either you gonna sit the fuck down and act like you got some sense, or I'm gonna let my wife run up in your shit. Now, which one is gonna be? Remember what happened at that barbecue, Stacy quipped. Not wanting a repeat of that horrendous day, Devin decided to fall back. Once again, she was severely outnumbered. Cam wasn't around to save her this time. Pursing her lips, she glared at Mo with contempt and slowly took a seat off to the side. That's what I thought. Boss side-eyed her as the emergency room doors opened again. Daddy! Gray's heart lurched as she glanced up. Hold up. As she glanced up, for some reason, she had hoped it was Cam that was being called, but it wasn't. Mo leaped from her seat and into her daddy's arms. Followed behind him was Curtis and Cal in his wheelchair. Gray took notice that Carrie was missing. She will remember that he was MIA when his brother was fighting for his life. Anyone that had ever done Cam wrong would be on her shit list. Gray was going to go after each and every one of them with a vengeance if he didn't survive. Slowly, she continued to rock and hum. What happened to your brother? Cam Sr. asked. He's been stabbed. Mo cried like a little baby. I knew the street shit was going to catch up with him one day. Cam Sr. shook his head in disgust. Daddy, stop. No, because it's true. That boy don't think about nobody but himself. He has caused his family nothing but Good grief. Don't make no damn sense. He had all the potential in the world to be something great. Now look, he ain't nothing but a failure and a disappointment. Gray narrowed her eyes on the old man. Every part of her wanted to cuss him out on the strength that he was Cameron Gray's father. She kept her mouth shut. He, however, had one more time to say something slick at the mouth, but she was going to forget her home training and lose her shit. 4 hours later, Gray hadn't moved a muscle. Everyone around her paced, drank water, went to the restroom, and had small talk, but she sat humming the same gospel hymn over and over and over. Quan asked if she wanted something to eat, but Gray couldn't stomach the thought of food. It was a hard enough job turning her head from side to side to say no. She was so out of it that she didn't even notice the doctor when he entered the emergency room. He was a tall, slender man in scrubs and a white physician's coat. I'm Dr. John Waters. Is the next of kin to Cam Parthens here? He looked around the packed room. Yes, the entire family rose to their feet, including Gray. All of her motor senses came flooding back. She was on high alert with anticipation. Moving quicker than she had since the incident, she pushed her way to the front of the herd and stood next to Mo. Sensing her presence, Mo laced her fingers with Gray's and held on tight. Hands fused, they became each other's lifeline. Is my brother all right? Her voice cracked. As you may know by now, Mr. Parthens was brutally stabbed in his abdomen. When he arrived, he wasn't responsive and barely breathing on his own. As you may know by now, Mr. Parthens was brutally stabbed in his abdomen. When he arrived, he wasn't responsive and barely breathing on his own. We were informed by the EMTs that his aorta was only nicked. He didn't die, but he suffered profuse internal bleeding. To ensure his aorta didn't fully erupt and send blood into the space around his heart and lungs, we performed aortic surgery and repaired the wounded area. Oh, thank God, Mo let out a sigh of relief. Stacy gripped Quan's shoulder and brought him in for a one-arm hug. Neither man would have been able to handle another death amongst the crew. So my husband is okay, Gray questioned wearily. Until she heard the words yes, she wouldn't be able to function normally. Dr. Waters hung his head low, then lifted it back up and stood erect. The surgery itself was a success, but as we were wrapping things up, Mr. Parthens experienced a stroke. No, Mo clutched her chest, fearing the worst. I'm sorry to inform you that the disturbance in the brain during the stroke increased intracranial pressure and caused loss of oxygen and a buildup of toxins, which led to a stroke-induced coma, Dr. Waters announced regrettably. Is he going to survive? Cam Sr. stepped up. To be honest, sir, Mr. Parthens is experiencing minimal brain activity and has been placed on a ventilation machine. At this point, things are very touch and go. It could go either way. Suddenly, Mo couldn't bear the weight of her own legs and she fell to the floor in a heap of tears. Gray almost went down with her, but once more her body turned into cement. Wails of hopelessness erupted from the lungs of their friends and family, but this time she remained void of all emotion except determination. Cam was in a coma and fighting for his life. He needed her now more than ever. Gray had sworn before God to fight for him when he couldn't do it for himself. And that's exactly what she planned on doing. She'd take on the devil himself if it meant they'd be able to spend more time together. Fuck crying. She'd done that. It was time to go into survival mode. She and Cam hadn't seen the full scope of where their love could go. It would take more than a stroke and a coma for her to give up on what they shared. When she said she'd stick by his side through sickness and health, she meant it. Being Cam's wife meant more than wearing his ring or donning his last name. It wasn't something endured but savored. With him, she never felt so alive. Without him, she was a walking corpse. She needed him there to wipe her tears and tell her everything would be all right. He was the center of her universe. Her world orbited around his. Gray and Cam's marriage was a union of two hearts beating as one. Each of them was sacrificed for the other's happiness and well-being. He had to wake up. They couldn't be done. There was still so much more story to tell. They couldn't have reached the until death do us part stage of their union. The thought of death was morbid to Gray. She wanted the fairy tale love affair she'd read about as a child. She deserved and they lived happily ever after ending. And if it took every breath in her body, she was going to get it. And that is chapter 1, my friends. So what do you guys think? Woo! A lot, wasn't it? Chapter 1. Whoo, shit. Oh, Lord. Is anybody typing this thing? It said unable to connect to chat. Please try again later. What's going on with the chat? Let me type something to see if it'll work. Okay. No, it says error, try again. Oh, what's happening with the chat? Hold up. Nope, it still ain't going through. I'm gonna have to log off and log back on. Okay, y'all, I'm gonna log off and log back on because something going on with the chat. I'll be right back.